Imagine zipping down America's East Coast at 200 plus miles per hour, blazing from Washington, D.C. up to Boston in just over 1 hour, all while enjoying extra legroom, speedy Wi-Fi, and zero airport hassle. Tell me bullet train travel like that wouldn't excite Americans dreaming of sleek, high-tech transit options. Yet when it comes to multi-billion proposals transforming existing tracks, why do high-speed hopes never quite pick up enough momentum beyond the visionary concept stage? What is it about the densely populated Northeast Corridor, with its bustling chain of interlinked cities, that has advocates still optimistic about building a bona fide hyperloop rivaling bullet line over time? I'm super curious why this mega infrastructure dream keeps stirring, rather than fading away when confronted by logistical nightmares and astronomical price tags. Aren't we talking about retrofitting railways originally laid before the US Civil War here? How could that lattice of legacy steel and antiquated tunnels serve streamlined 21st century rail needs? Can America really emulate Europe and Asia's sleek, high-speed services, or will proposals always fall short? Hope you're also intrigued to unpack the promise and perplexities around unlocking 220-mile-per-hour trains across the eastern seaboard. There's a lot of speedy concepts and stubborn real-world friction to analyze here. Shall we review key passenger routes and economic arguments, lighting optimism, alongside construction headaches, dampening hopes of ever achieving truly high-speed trains through dense, historic cities? I'd love to hear your take. First up, what exactly is the Northeast Corridor? Essentially, it's the railroad stitching together every major East Coast conurbation from Washington, D.C. up to Boston. This spine of steel between iconic cities already sees over 12 million Amtrak passengers yearly. We're tracing the legacy of one of the world's oldest continuously operated rail lines here too. Started in the 1830s, its reputation only grew with intercity travel demand through the 20th century. Now, this 456-mile ribbon of rail carries over 2,200 trains daily, a mix of commuter transit and Amtrak services. But the crowning fleet cruising these tracks could be the sleek Acela Express, proudly wearing the bullet train badge already. Well, sometimes at least. See, Acela briefly hits 150-mile-per-hour speeds, but only in short spurts on clear track. Overall, tight turns and traffic density keep average velocity around 80 miles hourly. And therein lies the high-speed challenge for the entire Northeast Corridor. How exactly can a railway threading through centuries-old cities, over twisting viaducts, and burrowed under harbors and rivers, be adapted for blistering velocity 24/7, especially with lengthy tunnels and reliance on archaic 1930s signaling systems in some sections? Yet visionary planners still envision exclusive bullet train lanes slashing end-to-end journey times in half by 2050. Washington, D.C. to Boston would suddenly take just 1.5 hours, not 3. So are such ambitions reality in the making or high-speed pipe dreams? Let's analyze further. The Northeast Corridor, America's busiest passenger rail line. To understand the appeal of high-speed rail here, we must first grasp how vital the Northeast Corridor has become. This windy rail ribbon doesn't just intersect major cities, it actively ferries the pulsing workforce bloodstream powering the entire eastern seaboard economy. We're talking about the economic juggernaut corridor spanning Washington, Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York, and Boston. America's political powerhouse, historic hotbeds of innovation, financial fortress of Wall Street, all linked by just 700 miles of carefully laid track and catenary wire. 250 million annual travelers flow between worlds of opportunity across the Northeast Corridor Rail Gateway. Envision the daily commute flux as lawyers, analysts, creatives, healthcare workers, and more crisscross between concrete beehives. So keeping this human river of talent flowing fast and reliably is paramount, which is why America funnels over $1 billion yearly into Northeast Corridor upgrade projects already. But can further investment unlock bullet train speeds fit for growing mega-region needs? That's the multi-billion-dollar question electrifying opinion for years: the case for high-speed rail. Supporters of high-speed rail make strong economic and environmental arguments by pointing to successful projects overseas. They argue that per passenger, fast trains emit less carbon, even when factoring in infrastructure construction impacts. For evidence, advocates highlight Spain's popular Barcelona-Madrid route, which cut air traffic dramatically by shifting 90% of travelers to smooth 300 km/h bullet trains in just a few years after launch. Deepening station integration with local transit also amplified regeneration around stops. Applying this case specifically to America's Northeast Corridor, Proponents say dedicated bullet train tracks would better serve the expansive East Coast megalopolis as populations grow further. With ultra-fast trains making trips feel trivial, activity between interconnected cities would rise, nurturing commercial growth and dynamic urban clustering. Additionally, once operational, substantial revenues from high-speed ticket sales could offset the initial $100 billion+ outlay over time, as would knock-on development around new rail hubs. Station districts could morph into thriving mixed-use spaces. So that's the economic and environmental pitch enthusiastic supporters are making. High-speed trains could make America's vibrant eastern seaboard even more globally competitive while limiting flight emissions. The case against. Critics, however, highlight financial black holes swallowing many flagship projects eventually, despite upbeat initial projections. And vast concrete and steel needs during construction weaken environmental arguments further. Couldn't federal funds fix more pressing transit gaps nationwide instead? Accessible connections to opportunity for lower-income communities, for example? And would premium Northeast Corridor services truly integrate with broader mobility networks anyway, or remain largely siloed? Few metropolitan transit systems currently sync schedules with Amtrak's limited feeder routes. So where next? While doubts clearly remain, early initiatives around 4-hour journeys by Amtrak show intent already to keep advancing the Northeast Corridor's capabilities bit by bit. But truly integrated, efficient, and affordable high-speed rail looks decades off based on current inertia, if ever fully realized at all. Hyperloop or even supersonic air travel could yet supersede trains instead. While realizing genuine high-speed rail on the Northeast Corridor faces substantial obstacles, writing off the ambitions as totally unrealistic may still be premature at this point. After all, keeping America's thriving East Coast megaregions interconnected relies on cultivating better transportation links, not worsening gridlock. As public sentiment evolves, high-speed rail projects can refine technological approaches and scope. I could envision more incremental build-outs prioritizing improved connections to disadvantaged communities alongside premium bullet services between downtowns, a tiered hierarchy of train speeds tailored to socioeconomic needs. Ultimately, more debate is still needed on balancing priorities. Should forward-thinking high-speed rail initiatives press forward given global pressures to cut flight emissions? Or should funds be redirected where basic transit gaps cause more acute mobility barriers for lower-income riders? Strong cases can be made either way. I'm very interested in perspectives on whether pushing towards 220-mile-per-hour trains deserves continued optimism or tougher skepticism instead from transport authorities. Can frequently upgraded or new dedicated rail infrastructure realize sustainable mobility improvements that outweigh long-range financial risks? As we debate the merits and obstacles around high-speed Northeast Corridor rail, maintaining constructive discussion helps all of us evaluate evidence and priorities thoroughly. There are insightful perspectives to consider on both the promise and pitfalls surrounding this complex issue. Hearing a diversity of voices based on realistic constraints and opportunities grounds this conversation. What potential do you see or roadblocks worry you most? Engaging openly and weighing factors with care allows the wisest paths forward to emerge over time. I'm eager to learn from evidence and expertise many rungs up and down the experience ladder. Let's continue expanding perspectives thoughtfully regarding high-speed rail's future fate, winding through the Northeast Corridor and beyond.